Um, Let me ask you about a particular player, and that would be the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
As you can well guess, we talk about him basically on a daily basis here because we don't know what kind of season he's going to have. He had an up and down season last year. He's got strengths to his game. The Eagles gave him a big plus by bringing in A.J. Brown to help the passing game. We believe they want to throw the ball more this year, even though they were the most effective running team in the National Football League.
Right.
Number crunching and what you think the Eagles did and what they're showing as far as their moves go in structuring the roster. He doesn't have numbers you can sink your teeth into. We're going to do that next here on Birds 365. Mike Tanier from Football Outsiders, good enough to hop aboard with us and join us here. Their new almanac came out today or yesterday, I guess it was.
Yeah, perfect timing, Mike.
Yes. Did not know that when I said, hey, Johnny Mac, what do you think you get Mike Tanier for us this week? Yes, perfect timing. What is it that you like best about your almanac for those who believe number crunching can tell you a lot about what a football team looks like coming into a season?
What I like about it personally is that the number crunching is a small component of it. I mean, it is a component of it. Obviously, it's an analytics guide, but there's a lot of tape work that goes into it too. We watch lots and lots of last year's footage. We watch new guys coming onto the team. We watch the rookies. We do a lot of draft coverage. All that is included in it as well. And of course, we're hip to the storylines as well. So we're not just saying, our stats say this, so we're right. And if you don't like it, we're going to go on Twitter and yell at you for the next 30 days, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, well, our stats say this, the tape says this, conventional wisdom says this, coaches say this, et cetera, et cetera. We put it together and we try to make the best all-around judgment on every team in the NFL.
When it comes to your simulations, Mike, and I know Aaron Schatz, who obviously is a big part of Football Outsiders, notes that it's always, conservative. You guys try to be as conservative as possible. So when it comes to your simulations of the entire season for specific teams, what does that mean that you try to be conservative? What is it? In other words, everybody looks at Buffalo, and the odds say that Buffalo are the leading contender to be the Super Bowl champions. I kind of look at it as an old school guy. That's a pretty devastating loss. How do you bounce back from that when you get kicked down to the bottom of the mountain and there's that human sort of nature effect? So how does all this kind of come together and you do these simulations and you do it conservatively and try to figure things out?
Now, we don't necessarily try to be conservative. We try to be super accurate. Then when you run 10,000 simulations of something, there's this thing called central tendency. And the most likely thing to happen for any really good team is for a couple of guys to get hurt, et cetera, and they kind of fall back towards 500. The most likely thing to happen for every bad team is, the rookies are a little bit better and they get a little luck and they move back. So it ends up being conservative. But, for a team like the Bills, we don't factor in, you lost a coin toss in the AFC Championship game. We say, you were in the AFC Championship game and you scored 40 points or whatever. Your quarterback is coming back. Your top receiver is coming back. You're adding Von Miller. You add in the first round a Khair Alam, a cornerback that was your main need. So you put all those things in, and then you run the simulation. And the power of the simulation is you're running through an entire season over and over again. So there's seasons in there that Josh Allen gets injured. Not many, but there are. There'd be more seasons that an older quarterback or an injury-prone quarterback would get hurt. You run it all together, and it takes out all of the helium. It takes out the helium about Tyreek Hill or Deshaun Watson or, what if this guy does this? You put it all together, and again, you're right. The Buffalo Bills wind up with the best record based on our simulations.
And that makes them the Super Bowl favorite, which we'll see if it actually plays out that way. Here's my reservation on the Bills, and it's the same with teams in the AFC West. That's a tough division. Both of those divisions are really tough. I think my Jets are significantly improved this season. They're still finishing in fourth place, even though I think they've gotten that much better because the Dolphins are better, the Patriots are the Patriots, and the Bills are the best team or the best roster in football this year. How much do you have to factor that in? You know what the schedule's going to be. They're going to play those divisional games. The four teams out west, I think, are all tremendously talented as well. There's a couple of divisions in the AFC that are really difficult. How much do you have to factor that in when you're doing your projections?
We have the Bills with the 11th toughest schedule in the NFL. So a tough schedule, but not a like unusually tough schedule. And so that's another reason why our numbers are conservative, because they've got to play through it in our simulations over and over and over again. So they play that tough schedule. They play the Patriots over and over. They play Tyreek Hill over and over again, and they have to come up, win these games. The easiest schedule, I'm going to tell you right now, according to our metrics, belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles.
And funny how that works with the NFC East.
And that's why the Philadelphia Eagles have a very, very strong projection from us this year, because we think the team is going to be good, but also because we look and we see the Jaguars and the Texans and the Bears and the Lions on that schedule as well.
Now, you will go there because of the schedule. Now, all the NFC East teams have an easy schedule because they play each other, and that's part of it.
Right.
But and not only that, as you mentioned, the out of division foes shake up pretty nicely for Philadelphia this year. All the tough games, most of the tough games on paper at home, everything kind of went their way when it comes to the schedule. Little tweaks, going down to Dallas for Christmas is difficult. Third game of a 3-game road trip, things like that. But for the Eagles as a whole, when you talk about their greater potential, and I'm talking about outside of the NFC East and trying to be a meaningful contender in the playoffs in the NFC as a whole, how much does the AFC factor into that? In other words, what Jody was saying, Mike, the AFC looks like a murderer's row to get out of there. The NFC, you got some good teams, starting with the Super Bowl champions. You got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady's back. By no means are the Eagles going to be the favorite, but not nearly as deep as the AFC. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, and that factors into the Eagles having this high projection, and the Buccaneers having a very high projection, just waltzing in, so to speak. The Packers, despite their losses at wide receiver, kind of waltzing in. The Rams playing a much tougher schedule, because I think that they've got a tougher schedule out there, but getting in. And what you see in the NFC is, with our projections, we've got teams like the Vikings high. Because in the NFC, if you come in and say, hey, we got a veteran quarterback who's pretty good, we're getting back Jefferson, we're getting back Thielen, we've got an older roster that's been around, our projections are like, oh, in the NFC, you're going to win a bunch of games. The Saints are the same way. We have a good projection of the Saints. Why? 2 games against the Falcons, 2 wins. 2 games against the Panthers, even with Baker, probably 2 wins. And you work your way up, and it's like, oh, we've got all these veterans on defense, on the offensive line, if Jameis doesn't throw 30 picks, et cetera. You do not get that in the AFC. So in the NFC, it's going to be about making that tournament. And that's the best we can say for the Eagles right now. They're poised to make that tournament. What happens in January against Brady and Rodgers? Well, it depends on where the team is developed at that point. But if they take care of their business, they should be there come December against the Cowboys come January.
And, oh, by the way, the Saints always beat the Bucs during the season.
Yes.
They don't beat them during the playoffs, but they beat them during the season, which is going to help them get close to double-digit wins this year. That's one team Johnny and I disagree with. I kind of like the Saints, and it's going to be important this year because the Eagles have the Saints' first-round draft pick. I don't think it's going to be as high a draft pick as some Eagle fans are hoping it is. I actually think the Saints are going to be pretty good. Let me ask you about a particular player, and that would be the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Yes. As you can well guess, we talk about him basically on a daily basis here because we don't know what kind of season he's going to have. He had an up-and-down season last year. He's got strengths to his game. The Eagles gave him a big plus by bringing in A.J. Brown to help the passing game. We believe they want to throw the ball more this year, even though they were the most effective running team in the National Football League. Right. Number crunching and what you think the Eagles did and what they're showing as far as their moves go and structuring the roster. What kind of season is Jalen Hurts looking at for you guys?
Number crunching, the Eagles threw over the middle of the field only 10% of the time of their passes last year. It was
crazy when you look at that chart, Mike. It's crazy.
Yeah, they show the charts, right? Yeah. It's like nothing in here, and it's all out here and on screens, and you saw it every week, and you know it. By far the lowest in the league. And it's a deficiency. And you can kind of watch the way Hurts moves around in the pocket, the way he might not see it there, the way he's like a little more eager to run than to throw it there. There was also nobody besides Goddard who could do it over the middle there. Obviously, we looked at the receivers last year, smaller guys or Rieger guys, and they're not going to take care of it. So one of the things we said in our chapter is the things working in Hurts' favor right now are experience. He did not have very much experience last year. Continuity. This is the first time he's had the same coach and coordinator since I think high school, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And A.J. Brown. This makes a difference because you have a physical receiver who can work the middle more. So we're not projecting like the stratospheric Josh Allen type thing for Jalen Hurts. But if you take each of those and say, that's a 2 or 3% improvement, that's a 2 or 3% improvement, and that improves the biggest weakness, Brown improves the biggest weakness, you can get to a very good quarterback or a very solid quarterback who also scrambles, who also provides leadership. And that's one of the things that's baked into the idea that the Eagles should be a very strong, well, a favorite at least to win the NFC East.
How does, Mike, the sort of projected improvement in the passing game that comes with A.J. Brown and sort of the dominoes that you just mentioned that might fall into place because that's a very good player. How does that affect the Eagles' run game when you look at those projections? Because let's face it, this was the top running team in the NFL last year, and a lot of that had to do with what the Eagles say is the +1 that Jalen Hurts gives them.
Yeah.
And it makes it so difficult when you have that extra player available to run the football from an offensive perspective. We all know the Eagles want to pass it more. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike. How does that sort of bake in all the simulations?
Generally speaking, when the passing goes up, the running goes down a little bit, and the team gets better.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. Usually, if you're a great running team, it's because you're already the fourth quarter and you're already winning the game, or it's 1978 and you're looking at some old team now. So the Eagles were very unusual.
A lot of Eagles fans want it to be 1978. Like, in perpetuity.
Yeah, until it's 3rd and 15, and you're like, why can't this team do it this time after you get a holding penalty, et cetera, et cetera? So you want to ideally be good at both things. Our projections still have Hurts, being a runner. We still have, Miles Sanders running the ball well. You don't project those 35 carry games anymore. And, if things work out well, it's only a 35 carry game because you're beating the Giants by 2 touchdowns and you're kind of goofing off on offense. So that's the thing. You want to get better at the pass. The running game is a secondary, it's like kind of a byproduct of getting better at the passing game.
Mike Tanier from Football Outsiders, our guest here on Birds 365. All right. Other teams in the Eagles division, starting with the Dallas Cowboys, they're swimming upstream because they were last year's champion, and we haven't had a repeat champion in the division for decades. So they do have to get over that hurdle. And I think they got to get over the Eagles. Did the Cowboys improve themselves during the offseason? We analyze all the moves that every team makes, and we try and put a grade on a position and whether we think a team has gotten better or not. I don't believe the Cowboys are better. If anything, I think they've gone slightly backwards. That's why I think the Eagles are the favorite in the division as of right now. What do you give the Cowboys as a grade for their offseason moves?
Well, as a grade, I think it's a poor grade. You traded Amari Cooper, and Tyreek Hill gets traded, and you get like first-round picks back. Devontae Adams gets traded, and the Packers get first-round pick back. So the Packers improve their defense. The Chiefs improve their defense. The Cowboys trade Cooper. They got what, like a 3rd-round pick or something like back. So they traded Cooper for nothing. They lose Cooper. Then they lost Cedric Wilson, who was their, I believe it's Cedric Wilson, who was their backup wide receiver who usually came in when everybody else was hurt. They lose Connor Williams, who was all over the place on their offensive line for years. They lost Randy Gregory, who was one of their leading sackers last year. They lost those guys, did not bring a lot of guys in. Their first-round pick was Tyler Smith, who I think is a good player, but he's a developmental left tackle. It's like getting Jordan Mailata 3 years ago. That's who you drafted in the first round, so to speak. So our projection for them, they're still around a 10-win team. They've got the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL because, like you guys were saying, everybody in NFC East, they play each other. They play kind of the same. They all get to play the Texans and Jaguars, et cetera. So it's going to be easy. Based on all that, based on obviously Dak still being a great quarterback, they still have a strong offensive line. They got Micah Parsons. They've got Tank Lawrence, guys on defense. Very good team. Neck and neck with the Eagles, but maybe a little bit of hair behind the Eagles right now.
All right, Mike, I want to get negative with you. I want the bad teams. I look at certain teams. I don't know what the heck Atlanta is doing with Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota. They got some good players on defense and Grady Jarrett and A.J. Terrell, but they look like a really bad team. Houston is still – they just need that talent. They hit the floor. Chicago – looks terrible to me. I don't know what they're doing. They seem to be in rebuilding mode. Who did you guys look at and say these teams, they're up against it?
The New York Giants.
Huh?
They have the lowest rating here. If you look top to bottom of the roster, especially last year, this is a team that, if you remember Dave Gettleman, it was all about the hog mollies and the trenches.
Yeah.
And they finished in the bottom 3 in both like run defense and running the ball last year. And in things like sacks last year, according to our metrics. So you have this team that's been drafting first-round picks on defensive line and at running back with Saquon and on the offensive line, and they're terrible at it. And they just don't have any talent. Now, they do have a relatively easy schedule, but we have them graded out as one of the weakest teams in the NFL. Atlanta, you said it right. Now, we think the offense could be okay this year because they've added a lot of pieces. Kyle Pitts is a good player. Drake London is the first round. It's funny you mentioned the Texans. I want to pull up their number real quick here. We have the Texans at close to 8 wins, and the reason why is you sleep on them, and they pick up every old Patriots guy and every old Chiefs guy that like it falls off the bottom of the free agency list. If there's a 30-old like Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison from the Bills, they picked them both up. These are both guys who had double-digit sacks in their primes. I think 31, 32 can still play a little. It's like an old-timers team, and if you put all those guys together, they're going to beat the Jaguars, steal a win here, steal a win there, and kind of be professional. And then they're going to still stink 3 years from now. But the Texans could be a team that like goes above their over this year.
I love your nerviness, but I can't disagree enough. I'm not a Davis Mills guy, and they have been staunch in their belief that Davis Mills is their quarterback going forward, and I just don't see it. If they win 8 games, yes, I will be wrong on the Texans. All right, I do want to ask you about the other team. You mentioned the Giants. I asked you about the Cowboys. The Commanders last year, Carson Wentz, we know him all too well here in Philadelphia. Depending on, again, how you crunch the numbers, Carson Wentz put up some reasonable numbers last year.
Yes.
Not good the last 2 weeks of the season. It cost them a playoff spot, and that's why they were ready, willing, and able to move off him and trade him to Washington, were the Colts. But do you see Carson Wentz season last year as half empty, glass half empty, glass half full, and how do you think he fits in Washington under his new coaching staff with the Commanders?
One of the great things about our stats, and our stats said Wentz had a below average season, kind of like what you said, but not this train wreck of a season. But, we take that and, we break it down by situation, by third downs, by first downs, by goal line mistakes, by at the shadow of the goal line mistakes, which I think he's notorious for the last couple of years. And we put those into the projections, and we do the film work before we write the chapters. And we had guys breaking things down, not just the mistakes, but the big plays by Carson Wentz last year, where it was first down, hand off to Jonathan Taylor, gain of 6. Second down, hand off to Jonathan Taylor, gain of 8, first down. Next play, fake the handoff and throw the bomb. The easiest play to get like a 25-yard play when the linebackers are sucking in. Frank Reich did so much of that for Carson Wentz. And some of that we can put in the projections because it's very objective. Some of it we put into the chapters when we write them. We have the Washington Commanders with the second worst offense in the NFL for 2022. Okay, that's McLaurin. That's after the McLaurin contract. He's healthy and all. You have very few receivers that are going to be healthy and good at the same time. Jahan Dotson's a rookie. The Samuel, the other guy, was hurt all of last year. I know he was good a couple of years ago. Logan Thomas, a tight end, coming off a major injury. All of these things, the offensive line has been shuffled around, combined with Wentz, say this is not going to be a very good offense. Probably be an okay defense with Chase Young and those guys, but it's not going to be a very strong team. Going to be kind of a mediocre, very Washington kind of team.
How do you project, and did Mike freeze up on us? It seems like Johnny did. You can still hear me good. How do you factor in the mess that is the Redskins organization? The fact that Dan Snyder is going to be called in front of House Subcommittee and all the issues that they have with their workplace. How does that have any effect on how you rate them coming into the season? Ron Rivera is a good guy to try and keep the two things separate. I don't know if he's capable of doing it. I don't know if anybody's capable of doing it. The mess that is the Commanders organization from top to bottom, how do you think that plays itself out on their 17 games this year?
We don't have a variable for the owner is living in international waters like a pirate. Like you can't
really. You got to add that, Mike. Shame on you.
Yeah.
I want that as part of next year's almanac. You better get that in there.
Right. We don't have defensive coordinator into treason. We don't have that as a variable. in there. We do have one for coaching stability, and Rivera gives them positives for coaching stability because he should, because we know who he is. It factors in when, they bring in Carson Wentz as their solution. That's bad organizational planning here. Like, what our solution is going to be? Carson Wentz. We have to pay him so much money, even though the Colts were trying to throw him out with the garbage, that we couldn't keep Eric Flowers on the offensive line. This is a guy they brought in and turned out to be a surprise quality offensive lineman. Oh, now we have cap constraints. We have to let him go. But then we're going to shuffle in like an older player, Andrew Norwell, on the line, and we're going to put him in there. Then we're going to take Dotson, who a lot of us had maybe high second round, and we're going to draft him, 11th, 12th overall? I forget. It all melts into the team across the roster because all of that organizational chaos makes a roster that isn't as strong, isn't as tight, isn't as continuous as it's supposed to be. And that's how the Commanders wind up sliding down in our metrics.
Well, talking about bad organizations, and I'm gonna rip Xfinity. We had some storms. Mike's a South Jersey guy. He knows we had some storms. So evidently I'm having some internet issues, but hopefully I'm sticking in there. Jacksonville, because of Doug Peterson, obviously, it's very interesting to me. But it's a bad organization. It's been a bad organization. We know Doug's there partially because they made such a terrible decision at head coach last year. Now they do have Trevor Lawrence, and I got to tell you, Mike, I got a crush on Trevor Lawrence, and it did not go away because of Urban Meyer. For that reason, I think they have a chance for, Doug coming in. We saw him with the so-called quarterback incubator early here in Carson Wentz's career before Carson had all the injuries and everything started to go bad. Did a very good job developing a quarterback.
Yes.
He's got a better quarterback to develop now, a more talented quarterback, a higher end prospect. How high is the ceiling for the Jacksonville Jaguars because of Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence?
This year, the ceiling is they're going to go from a train wreck, a weekly comedy show, to mediocrity. They're going to be a team that can win some games as this development takes place. The long-term ceiling is higher. Right? You can't take Trevor Lawrence from, according to our metrics, he was almost like a historically bad quarterback last year. So, but, we're all Eagles fans. We remember Troy Aikman years ago having a historically bad season and working his way up to the top. And that's the kind of thing Lawrence is capable of because of his talent. But it's going to be a stepping stone type of thing. Peterson obviously helps. They brought in a lot of new receivers, new tight ends, et cetera. Most of them are okay. They did not bring in like this great thing where they brought in Devontae Adams for him. They brought in Christian Kirk for him. But if you look at all of those things along the way and replacing, a Looney with Doug, you're going to get a team that is going to be competitive every week. Lawrence will do his development. Maybe you get 7 wins, maybe you get 8, but we're not laughing about the Jaguars like we were last year.
Here in Philadelphia, we were hoping that doesn't kick in until after week 4 because Eagles have
Yes.
the Jags early on their schedule this year. All right, you've been doing this a long time, Mike, so have John and myself. There's something going on in the NFL that I'd never seen before, and that's what's transpiring in Baltimore with their quarterback. Lamar Jackson has already gotten an MVP. His contract is up.
Yep.
The Ravens are well on record saying, we understand he's a franchise quarterback, and we know what the numbers are, 45 million, thereabouts. We are willing to pay our quarterback those type of dollars, and he just doesn't want to engage in negotiations. That he is his own agent and he continues to not be able to get a deal done because he's not really trying and he's dropping cryptic hints on social media. He is, of course, the guy, like most teams in the NFL, quarterback can make or break your team. And certainly Lamar Jackson is that with Baltimore. Have you ever seen anything like that? And how does that affect your numbers? You got to try and factor that in. That's not something you can crunch a number with. What is the quarterback going to do? When is he going to decide, let me sit down and negotiate a deal? How do you play something like that with the Ravens in projecting what's going to happen with them this year?
Well, with this year, you don't necessarily worry about it because quarterbacks can't hold out anymore. Pretty much no one can hold out anymore because of the way they wrote the collective bargaining agreement. There's a poison pill in there. If he holds out, then he can't hit free agency the following year. Even without an agent, whoever's advising him knows that. And also, Lamar Jackson is not sort of programmed to hold out. It's almost like when he's supposed to be sitting down and getting on the phone with DaCosta and all of them. He's running around on the field instead because that's what he would rather do. Young folks, please get agents. Let them take care of it. We're old and we have people take care of our business for us.
Yes.
23, 24, you need somebody to help you, especially when there's millions of dollars at stake, not $12.50 an hour. Anyway, so for this year, the Ravens' projections are pretty high. Lamar's going to be there. On the field, he's going to be focused. Off the field, that's 2023, 2024's problem. And they're getting back so many guys. They were the most injured team in history, according to our metrics last year, in terms of games lost by starters. All the running backs, all the
the running backs were crazy last year.
The running backs were crazy. People lost track. The entire secondary was hurt at one point. The reason why they kept going for two at the end of those games is that they had no cornerbacks left. It's like if we lose a coin toss, we have like the safety playing corner. They're going to win, so let's just try to go for two, etc. So we have them coming back. But the Jackson thing, you're right, is unprecedented. Hope the young man gets an agent, because what's going to happen to him otherwise is the Ravens will be like, okay, franchise tag again. And then by that point, he'll either be so great that they'll be like, we surrender, here's all of our money. Or he'll have gotten banged up. And go apply your trade elsewhere.
Good advice, Mike. Get an agent. Yes. Got to handle your business the right way. And I got to handle some business with you at Mike Tanier on Twitter, at B Outsiders, the 2020 Football Outsiders, 2022 Football Outsiders Almanac, available now. Now, last year, you were on the show and promoting the book, and you said you were going to leave a hard copy, and I'm an old school guy in the media house in Philadelphia, and I said, all right, I'm good with that. I'm gonna share. I'm good with that. So I want to know if Mike Tanier forgot or Jimmy Kempsey just stole it. I want to know what went down.
It was Jimmy. He obviously stole it along the way. I only got there a couple of times. You know how it is, especially last year with the COVID, there was like a level A reporter and a level B. I was like a level Q reporter coming in. So I don't know if they let me in the media house, but I should be getting there for a couple of days, early August. And I promise this time I will leave behind a hard copy.
Mike, over the last couple of days here in Philadelphia, a guy who's here with us on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, Derek Gunn, reported something that someone told him about the Eagles and how Jalen Hurts has looked in their few practices that they have had during this offseason. And the gist of it was that right now, the Eagles might not be all that comfortable with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback to start the season. Using that word, comfortable, how comfortable should the Steelers be? First round draft pick, Mitch Trubisky. I'm not sure that they've got a starting quarterback ready to go on a season. They're another team that's on the Eagles' sched this year, so we want to know how good you think they're going to be. I'm a big fan of the coach, but I'm not sure that this team, they got still like tremendous defense, but I'm not sure what their offense is going to be. Should the Steelers be comfortable with their quarterback situation?
The Steelers are comfortable that whether Kenny Pickett or Trubisky can like throw little short passes and hand off to Najee Harris, their defense will get a million sacks, and that's going to keep them competitive. That's kind of like the Steelers' way, and that's probably how the Steelers' way is going to be this year. I wouldn't be that comfortable if I were them. Like you said, the AFC is this murderer's row right now. The Steelers are not in that list of teams that look like it's going to be there. But Tomlin knows his job's safe. Okay. The GM is retired. It's like, well, I got you, Kenny Pickett. Goodbye. I'll see you out the door. I got all these playoff wins and champions in the past, etc. So I see them as a 500 team. Our metrics see them again around 8.5 wins, somewhere in that. Maybe they're going to be a wild card type team. I don't necessarily think the solution is there. I'm not a huge Kenny Pickett fan. I think he would max out as one of those don't lose the game, you can win with me if everything else works, quarterbacks for the future. I don't know if he's going to be that in the present. But again, the Steelers will look at that and say, oh, we can win with him. Let's get 65 more edge rushers around TJ Watt and see what happens.
It's not a bad plan.
No. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I'll end it there. Mitch Trubisky, because he's the alternative. Where are you guys on Mitch Trubisky? Is it salvageable, or have you already pulled that plug and said the game manager that Kenny Pickett might become is better than anything you're going to get from Mitchell Trubisky?
he's the game manager that you can survive by when he's sort of maxed out. If you're really letting him out there work within the structure, you can win some games with him. And what happens a lot of times in our metrics is you get this, like at around the 25th best quarterback in the NFL, it doesn't go 25 to like 32. It goes 25 to like 40 or 42 or something like that, where there's these guys hanging around the benches who are like, well, they're just as good as the Daniel Joneses and the Carson Wentzes when you really get right down to it, who have starting jobs. And Trubisky's definitely in that range there. He's going to go out there. He's not going to, throw up from the pressure, et cetera. But you're not going to see this high-end thing. Now, he could surprise us. There's nothing to indicate that he could surprise us. And the other thing with the Steelers is we don't know what their offensive coordinator is really capable of. They have that coordinator, Matt Canada, who last year looked at Ben Roethlisberger's shoulder and said, okay, we're running a high school offense. This is not the Ben Roethlisberger anyone's seen. We can't get the ball more than 10 yards down the field unless he gets a running start, and made this goofy dink and dunk and screen offense. We don't know if that's really it. He's talking about rolling the pocket more and stuff, which is usually something you do when you're not comfortable with your quarterback. So I don't know if he's the guy who's going to improve Trubisky or develop Pickett along the way. A lot of that's just a wait-and-see situation.
Mike, I fear you've already answered my last question, but I'm going to ask you to go above and beyond it. You might say that the Texans are going to win 8 games. I'm not sure how you came up with that one, but was there one when you were doing all the compilations and putting your numbers together, and you certainly were part of it, but you've got coworkers who were part of it. When the finished product is getting ready to go and you're looking through it, you go, really? Wait, I need to go back and double check this. And it off the top of my head doesn't seem to fit, but if the numbers say so, I guess I'm going to have to accept it. Above and beyond the Texans being better than at least yours truly thinks, what jumped out at you as a bit of a surprise and you said, yeah, this actually has a chance to be a surprise element of the NFL season?
Minnesota Vikings at 9.9 wins.
Okay. Yeah,
same win projection as the Rams. A little bit ahead of the Packers. A possibility that the Vikings could be the NFC North champion. And again, it's based on that thing where in the NFC, if you're a veteran team with most of your veterans coming back, that never stunk. I mean, they're always kind of okay. And then you get that schedule, you can rise up and be ahead of the Lions and Bears in your own division and all the Panthers and that are streamed around the rest of the NFL.
Yeah.
They're certainly better than the Lions and Bears. I will give the Vikings that. They could be really bad teams this year. Mike, great stuff. If someone wants to order the Football Outsiders Almanac, how can they best do it?
Well, it will be on Amazon.com soon, and you can get your hard copy if I'm not going to leave one for you. Best way to get it right now is footballoutsiders.com. Go there, click the banner. You can get it as a PDF. You can get it as links, so you can just sit there and watch and read it on your computer if you like to. And you can order the hard copy. You can also become an FO Plus subscriber and get all the stuff we give you during the year, like our Kubiak fantasy projections and our weekly picks, our wagering picks.
All right, that's what we like to hear. Mike, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on board with us. We'll
Thanks,
certainly
Mike.
have you on again when the season gets underway. Thanks, bud.